we would like to know what motivates you for doing this documentary, The Economy of Happiness. What was your motivation for doing this issue?
Was to try to show that all around the world, countless people want to have more community, more connection with each other and with nature, and that there is a movement. They're trying to build a way of life that is more satisfying and that is more meaningful and more sustainable. I wanted the world to know that our problem is not to do with human nature. It's not to do with people being naturally greedy, naturally competitive. Our problem has to do with a blind support for what we have been led to believe is progress, growth.
When a friend of mine called me, and this friend of mine is a very wealthy Hollywood film director, and he's made millions of dollars. And he said that in the newspaper that morning, there was an article about happiness. And it basically said that America is a very rich country, but not a very happy country. And he said, I understand this because I have friends who are millionaires. They're talented, they're good looking, they're movie stars, they're movie producers. And every day I notice that the people who sweep the floors in my house and who clip the bushes in my garden, they are happier than my millionaire friends.
I am consciously looking at that the largest group of unemployed Americans, people without jobs in the United States,
Yes.
are returning soldiers.
Wow.
So we send, many of them are children when we send them, 17, 18, 19, to go to foreign countries and to carry guns and to shoot and kill people and to watch their friends die. And they come back with their minds and their hearts very affected.
I guess I have a very low tolerance for frustration. And when I see stupidity and attitudes which are ignorant, I get like I want to do something, I can't tolerate it.
It's a system that grew out of a rejection of spiritual teachings. We don't realize how much the global economy is actually reaching down into our hearts, into our closest relationships to others and even to ourselves, to our sense of self. Our relationships to our family, to our community are being cut off. It actually assumed, going back to the early scientific thinkers, that nature was something to be tortured to extract wealth for human beings. Mm-hmm. It was actually anti-ecological and anti-spiritual. It was not born of this wisdom and compassion or love and an understanding that spiritual teachings, consciousness teachings are based on. So I think that
in cities, you don't trust people. You're taught. We're kind of trained. Our culture says you shouldn't really trust strangers. But that's kind of crazy because I know from my experience, most people are trustworthy. Most people are very good people. And so I realize there's a paradox. My culture trains me to be suspicious and to be closed and to not trust people. But my experience says, no, that's not true. In some countries like Venezuela, family and community are very important. And people really value their friendships and their families. And so they take the time to go dancing with their friends or to celebrate birthdays or to do things together.
So localizing is about rebuilding those relationships. Mm-hmm. When we do that, we decommercialize because the global economy is putting a dollar sign on every relationship.
There's a common theme in our culture, which is our definition of success. You know, when you're successful, part of that means you have a lot of money. And when you have a lot of money, you have a bigger house. And when you have a bigger house, you have a bigger property with a big garden. And then at the end of the garden, you have a big wall or a fence to keep people away. And so the more money we have, the more success we have, the more disconnected we tend to be from our community. You know, even in our cars, you know, we disconnect. The cars, you can hear your own music, but you don't want to hear the world. Now, it doesn't mean that air conditioning is bad, or a big house is bad, or a big yard is bad. But it means that we're losing some things that promote our happiness that we're not even paying attention to.
First of all, it's so important that we really understand that the project that was called globalization was actually an economic project. And it was about big global businesses gaining more and more power over our governments, more freedom to move in and out of local and national economies. And so what globalization as an economic path has meant is that giant corporations and banks are in effect ruling the world.
What is the relationship between money and happiness? If you know, most of us want more money, and we somehow think that we will be happier because we will get the things that we want and we'll be able to do the things that we want. But in fact, the relationship between money and happiness is not so simple. If somebody is very poor, if they have very little money, then extra money helps a lot. If it means that the person can eat every day or can live in a house that's safe, then the money helps a lot in the happiness. But once you have those things, those basic needs met, more money does very, very little to affect your happiness. So in fact, it's like a curve. You know, having a little money helps a lot, and then the more you have, it doesn't tend to help anymore.
It's so easy to get spend too much time in front of television or in front of the internet, and I think we lose sight of who we are, you know, and our purpose. And sometimes we just kind of need some quiet time to listen to our own voice inside instead of all these outside distractions.
When I'm full of God, I'm feeling very creative and optimistic and generous and excited. And the way to get God is to stop, is to pause and to listen. So to contact God, we have to go very quiet and listening. Real connection with God is to stop talking, stop doing, stop being masculine, stop wanting, stop making action. Do the opposite, go into space, going into receptive and allowing the love in.
So if somebody values what they call extrinsic goals, and that means things like money, power, fame, good looks, all of these things that are sort of external to you, if those are your priorities, you are less likely to be happy than if you value what they call intrinsic goals, things that make you feel good just by doing them, things like community, compassion, friendship, wanting to make the world a better place. If you prioritize those things, you are more likely to be happy.
I had an idea that I'd like to make a film about different people around the world, a universal theme that would inspire people as to what they can do and the power of the individual, the power of what one difference can do in their own unique ways to make a positive impact.
From our analysis, the economic path of globalization has actually led to much more competition, much more fear, much more poverty, and it's threatening democracy. In my native country of Sweden, in England, in every country of the world that I know of, governments are feeling pressured by unidentified banks and corporations, and they're ignoring what their voters, what their people are asking of them. And they're ignoring both the mandate for more sustainable practices from an environmental point of view, but also from a social point of view.
Happy people are less likely to commit crimes. Happy people are more likely to help a stranger in need. If they see somebody who fell down or who lost something, they're more likely to help. Happy people are less likely to pollute the environment. They're less likely to want to go to war. They're more likely to come up with a creative solution to a problem. Happy people do better at work and they have better relationships. So all of the things that I care about are improved with happiness.
No, it makes much more sense to decentralize the economy and to allow a decentralization where even at the community level there is more power, and we only move upwards in power when it's necessary. But what I think we have to offer is a structural analysis, the structural part that will help us move towards a world where love and cooperation is not only possible, but very obviously the better way to go. And for that we need smaller scale, more human scale structures, and our interdependence with the rest of nature, and that we are one, that this interdependence and oneness is the way that life functions, is the most important step between us and a better world.